basically to give a very, very, very short introduction on the history and the diversity of Tolkien's reception in the past 20 years, from 2004 to 2023. I would say this is the main focus of our conference, when we'll be hearing papers from scholars coming from quite many different backgrounds and with a variety of different points of view. And I think this is great. I really like the fact that Tolkien's scholarship is very diverse. This diversity is one of the great strengths of Tolkien reception, and I think this can also give an important contribution to an academic world which is often marked by a lot of fragmentation, self-referentiality, and bipolarism. I said before the last 20 years, the last 2 decades, because I think it's fair to say that scholarly work on Tolkien has flourished dramatically in this period, and his stature as a literary writer has grown simultaneously, gradually overcoming the academic bias and ghettoization of the previous decades. Of course, and if you see at the handout, there have been many important studies on Tolkien before 2004, that is to say, starting with 2004, because 2004 is, I think, the year where Tolkien's popularity reached one of its peaks, with the triumph of Peter Jackson movies at the Oscars, and I think even more importantly, with the very foundation, the very first journal dedicated to Tolkien, it is to say Tolkien Studies, which was founded in 2004. I think, in fact, however, that the quantity and the quality even of the scholarship produced in the past 20 years have been truly overwhelming and truly reveal how Tolkien Studies has become a proper field of academic research. As you can see on the handout, more than 400 books on Tolkien have been published in this period. I have a kind of Excel file and I keep adding items, because this year I think 30 new books were published on Tolkien. I had about another 20 coming next year. Many of these books were written by established academics or published in prestigious academic presses, such as, of course, Oxford University Press. As you know, there have been 2 publishers in particular which are specialized in Tolkien studies. I would like to name them because I think they did an important work. One is the Kent State University Press, which is still active now, with many books related to the subjects Tolkien, Lewis, and the Inklings. And the second is, of course, Walking Tree Publishers, with its Corpus series, which is specifically dedicated to Tolkien, and now counts almost 50 volumes. 2023 will be 50 volumes dedicated to Tolkien. To this corpus of Tolkien-related books, we can add thousands, I think 6,000-7,000 articles published, especially in a few academic journals: Tolkien Studies, West Virginia University Press, the Journal of Tolkien Research, Mythlore, and the Journal of English Studies of the Edinburgh University Press. I think that after 20 years we can identify some main strands of research, each approaching Tolkien's work from different standpoints and methodologies, and I will now briefly illustrate these strands with a very simplified taxonomy, of course. We don't have a lot of time, and I will only refer, for reasons of space, to books or edited volumes. Okay, if I even have to consider journals, it will be a never-ending journey. But you will see that in the bibliography I've given you, think about 150 books and volumes, which I think can be kind of gathered into a, as I said, simplified taxonomy. So number one, the first strand consists of books or articles, especially books focusing on aspects of Tolkien's life, personal or professional, especially consider and influence the birth and development of his literature. Apart from important biographies, Carpenter of course, but others as well, I want to single out John Garth's books on the Great World in particular, and also the one on Tolkien's world, the places that influence Tolkien's imagination from the early years. There are also books like those by Dimitri Fimi or Mark Atherton, which have a biographical approach, but they also discuss broader cultural influences. Second strand, number 2, on the handout, which has been, I think, especially productive in the past couple of, in the last 10 years. Of course, there have been many before, but I think the last 10 years have really seen a surge in this particular subfield of research. And that's what I will refer to, the theoretical research carried out by scholars with interest in particular in philosophy or theology. This has produced a large corpus of works of disparate quality. The problem with the diversity is that not all the books are the same quality, okay, so we need a bit of seeding, of course, but I think the region itself is a beautiful thing. Many of these books, not all of them, but many of These books aim to identify a range of Christian values and concepts or theories, both as they are figuratively important in the novels and as explicitly addressed by Tolkien in non-fictional text. I've given you on the handout my very short selection of the works that I think are the finest or even just the most recent. I think a similar theoretical approach, to say an approach which kind of investigates Tolkien, trying to extract thoughts and ideas, can be related to the emerging field of environmental Tolkien studies. A lot of books have been published in the past 6-7 years on this. I think at least 5 or 6, and more are coming. PhD student in this university is working on this field. I think a similar approach is the one shared by what they may call the gender studies, or gender Tolkien studies, or feminist Tolkien studies, which I'm quite happy they are there as well. I mean, they kind of add a bit of diversity, as long as they don't become the only one. A third important strand includes works you see on the handout, focusing on source criticism, what in German is called the Quellenforschung, and also the reception, which is somehow related. What's the relationship between Tolkien and other authors, previous, contemporary, and future? This includes a large group of works focusing on Tolkien's sources of inspiration, cultural, literary, and linguistic, or to his literary legacy. More generally, these works have a comparative approach. They provide a comparative analysis of Tolkien's works and their contextualization within past, modern, and contemporary literary landscapes. As you can see on the handout, Tolkien's sources or parallels range from biblical narratives in classical mythology to Nordic and medieval literature in particular. Certainly the medievalist approach has been very prominent in Tolkien studies, but I don't think it's the only one. As a classicist, I'm quite happy that Hamish Williams, who is here with us, has invested a lot of effort on trying to reconstruct also the classical sources of Tolkien's work. Of course, there have been also important studies on Tolkien romantic and modern or modernist literature. Thinking, for instance, to the book by Holly Ordway, was really shown how Tolkien was not exactly someone in an ivory tower, was not involved with contemporary literature. Tolkien was certainly very well embedded within his literary context. No less extensive is the corpus of books that are focused on Tolkien's reception, of course, on fantasy literature in particular, but not just that. A colleague of our university will be the one giving the lecture on Tuesday. He's working on the reception of Tolkien within the field of paleoanthropology, meaning how paleoanthropologists use Tolkien's images and myths to kind of narrate to structure the narrative of their own research. It's a very, very interesting approach, which I mean novel if you want, but I was talking to him just before the summer. It's impressive how Tolkien's, how a lot of the scientists are using Tolkien's imagination to actually explain what they are doing. Then, number 4 on the handout, there is the group of reference works released in the past years, which have made available a large corpus of material of Tolkien's life and textual corpus. Of course, there are many annotated editions in encyclopedic works. I may also refer to companions. There are a few companions on Tolkien, one edited by another colleague of ours, Stuart Lee. The new edition was published just last year. Of course, there is the very important companions by Hammond and Scull, and also several extended and annotated editions of Tolkien's minor works and essays, which has, and I'll give you a very short list of fairy stories by Fliegen and Anderson, Fragments of Evolution Incarnation by Michael de Roo, who is with us today, a second by Dimitra, Phoebe, and Higgins. To this group, I will also add books with a strong sub-creative focus, I may call it, investigating specific aspects of Tolkien's secondary world, such as plants, place names, poetry, riddles, or invented languages. And I think in the afternoon we'll have one of the editors of Parma, Edda Lamberon, with us, who did a very important work in kind of reconstructing all these fragments of Elvish texts, some of which they were then eventually published in the Nature of Middle-earth. Finally, and that's number 5, and I promise to stop, there are several books which do not neatly fall in one of the both categories, and they have a more eclectic or idiosyncratic or hybrid approach. Again, I could go on forever talking about these 5 categories, but I will only mention today the works of Berlin, Flieger, and Tom Shippey, who I think can really be considered as the most influential scholars of the past 2 decades, and to whom in many ways we owe the foundation of Tolkien studies as an academic discipline. I think it's also thanks to their work that the study of Tolkien has gradually become an object of academic teaching and research, and this is indeed the approach that we will have in our conference today and tomorrow. I think Tolkien's the diversity of approaches to Tolkien research is a richness that needs to be fostered and cherished, but at the same time I think it's good that all the different approaches can come together into a common path, a bit like different people led into a single company, a single fellowship, and maybe working together become friends like an elf and a dwarf. And I hope this is basically what we're going to do today and tomorrow. So let me conclude. Thanks for your patience. Let me conclude recalling what are the main aims of the conference, as we wrote in the description that we circulated at the beginning, and I will read it again because that's really the kind of the vision and the hope that we had when we organized this event. So our aim is to exhibit and reflect on the range of different approaches, methodologies, and backgrounds in which Tolkien has been studied in the past 50 years, which reflects the complexity of his personality, the richness of his creative work, and the breadth of his reception. In a world even more divided into different political, cultural, and social bubbles, Tolkien has provided an exceptional meeting place for very different people united by a common passion, common love. And just as in the ancestral music of the island, the conference aims to be a polyphonic event in which different scholarly endeavors can come together in a moment of shared reflection and celebration. So I think it's now time to start the celebrations, and so we start the celebration with another very, very important scholar, one of the most important Tolkien scholars of our generation, who is John Garth. We're very grateful that he's here with us today. I don't think John Garth needs a very long introduction. Everybody knows his work. I already mentioned Tolkien's and the Great War and Tolkien's Worlds. As you noticed, in a way, Temple gave part of the title of the conference and also the very kindly the design that we used to promote it. John is actually currently working on a new book. May I say the name of the new book, which is Tolkien's Mirror, and maybe he will say something on that later on. We asked John to reflect, to talk about Tolkien biographical scholarship and to reflect on the pitfalls, the merits, the importance of this approach. So thank you very much, John, for being with us. Thank you to all of you for being here today on this important day. And I'm very looking forward to getting to know you better during these days. Thank you very much.